Yes, 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 yes. Hmm. Well, I'm back again, Hudson Judge as usual. Friday evening, doing a live as usual, man. Well, the Caribbean is the hot topic. Hot topic as usual. Caribbean region infested with gunboat dip, diplomacy. The gunboats, extremist political ideas, follow your leader mentality, and what? Ethnicity and the roots of colonialism. Right? The roots of colonialism. So, right now we have some gunboats in the Caribbean. Gunboats, my brother. We don't know if there will be war. As I said, I don't want war. I don't support war. But all we have now, what I see now, is extremism. Extremism. Selfishness. And justification of colonialism. Justification of colonialism both from the left and the right. Extremists. For example, right now the United States have his army or his military, navy. I would say his navy. Fighter bombers, nuclear submarine, sophisticated missiles on the north of Venezuela in the Caribbean Sea. Right? Close to Trinidad, those Dutch islands around there, Grenada, Tobago, and those places. Well, maybe Colombia too. So the whole southern Caribbean Sea is infested. Now, ideology and greed is another factor. Follow your leader is another factor. Now, then again, there's opportunism to the left too, and opportunism to the right also. Because I remember, if you check history, and I remember too, when Forbes Bonham was in power in Guyana, and Venezuela wanted to claim the Essequibo, Cuba had the offer to send troops to Guyana. America support Venezuela those days. CARICOM supported Venezuela. CARICOM supported Guyana to some extent, but maybe behind the scene, some Caribbean countries maybe was supporting Venezuela too. So those days, the Cuban was supporting Guyana because Bonham had his cooperative socialism, which was more like black nationalism, right? But even though Bonham was not the Cuban main choice, was the PPP those days. But the PPP was in opposition. The communist bloc didn't want to rock the boat with Bonham. The US didn't support Bonham. The British support Bonham during that crisis and CARICOM countries. But when I look into the nitty-gritty now, I'm not too sure if at that time Barbados or Dominica or Antigua those days were fully supporting Bonham, because those days you had the board of Antigua was right in the American pocket. You had Tom Adams in Barbados, he was in the American pocket. You had Eugenia Charles, she was in the American pocket. You had Milton Keto, he was in the American pocket. And Trinidad was kind of playing dormant, but I think Trinidad was a friend of Venezuela, not Venezuela, of Guyana. I think so. They were a friend of Guyana, not Venezuela, Guyana. Jamaica, those days with Manley, was a friend of Guyana too. Right? But with the Siaga part, it was more America. But I remember when Venezuela and Guyana had the little border thing, and the British said they're going to send them troops. Castro said he'll help Bonham fence off the Venezuelan, like Fidel Castro of Cuba. You see how politics change. Now the Cuban have military in Venezuela. The dynamics change. The Hugo Chavez revolution is alive, even though Hugo Chavez is dead, but Maduro is keeping it alive, right? Now, there is a little bit of colonialism that should be settled. It's time for Venezuela and Guyana to sit down and draw a border, create a border, and say, okay, this is that. Because, you know, they say thief, 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 and God laugh. So Venezuela saying the oil is the region is theirs. Guyana saying the region is theirs. How colonialism could be right? Now then you have the American come as the modern day colonizer with the gunboat, ready to strike Venezuela. Guyana now have to go with the American because they look in their interest. Trinidad go with the American looking for their interest. Well, my little Grenada, I don't know. Are we opportunistic in Grenada, or what is our politics? In Bishop days, and he didn't have no revolution in Venezuela, Bishop would go with Guyana, because the PPP was the party. It was the party, even though they were in opposition, but he will give Bonham diplomatic support, even though Bonham was not his choice. So now the region is infested with gunboat diplomacy, extremists, political ideologies, and selfishness. Now the question is, will America invade? I don't know. But my common understanding is that, and others follow politics, maybe the American is contemplating if they should invade. Because for the time the Chavez revolution took place, the Chavezistas take over Venezuela. And they had problem with the first Trump administration. That means they have a lot of weapons. They have some weapons. Now, politics in Colombia change a bit. the ultra-right not ruling Colombia now. The president of Colombia is a former guerrilla fighter, M19 fighter. So he take the support in Venezuela. Right? So we know politics. Now the news say Argentina supporting the American. Well, it's not surprised. The history of Argentina is basically a self-claimed European country on the continent of South America. So it's not surprised. And you know the history of Argentina with fascist regime and the killing of the elimination of the black population over the years. They say through wars, they send black men to fight war, and the black population decline, right? So this is not a surprise. And then you have Brazil. I don't know, Brazil perhaps could be sympathetic to Venezuela, but perhaps not openly. I don't know. So now in terms of us in Grenada, we have a regime that get a little problem with the American already. I don't making up that and I don't pushing fire. So in that gunboat diplomacy, Grenada is right on the South American border. There are people again, they talk all about 1 minute, they say race doesn't exist. No, they say race exists. The East Indian government in Trinidad supporting the East Indian in Guyana. Okay? So, right now, it's not political ideology. Then you have politicians in Grenada, they say they study in Cuba. So they loyal to Cuba. Right? On the international scene, the comments sound politically correct if you're from the left. And if you're from the right, it's not politically correct for you. But from a Grenadian perspective, from a local point of view, when a politician saying Cuba was good to them, this is the same party in power talk about the Imanis. And Imani might say the NNP government was good to them. So you see again, you say selfishness come in politics. People who were educated in Cuba, they're not ungrateful to Cuba. So they tell you, okay, I support Cuba. Now, on the domestic scene in politics, the young people who are getting the money might say, okay, I have gratitude to the former NNP government, which is now the opposition party, for giving me a money paycheck. So you see how politics is, eh? Selfishness comes in. Who can I blame for that? If an elected politician could say he loyal to Cuba because Cuba was good to him. Right? So the Caribbean is infested. The gunboats are there. Weapons from the American gunboats in the water. Weapons from different countries are there. Venezuela have Russian weapon and other country's weapon over the years. The question is, will there be an invasion? And if there is an invasion, even the stronger power, if they invade, what will be the result? And who will benefit? How much people will die? Will the invading force fix the country after the invasion? Or just do what they do and go? You understand? Now, from a Grenadian perspective now, Grenadian, the last election didn't vote on, people didn't vote on anti-imperialism. People vote for the new government where the former government kind of reluctant to pay the public servants the pension money in the lump sum, give them all the money one time. And that caused the government to lose some support. And there was other issues. Now, I'm not seeing those core NDC supporters. All I'm seeing is some old faces of the revolution, of the PRG revolution walking behind the scene. Even if you have a cultural talent and you want to perform in a Grenada, they might say no, you can't come because you maybe you don't support the government. So you have elements of the PRG in this government. Is that democracy? So, is that selfishness? Or we don't have a government like Venezuela or Cuba. Now, I'm a critic of any government in Grenada. And who want to box me in a political section like mangoes or oranges or nutmeg in a bag or mango in a bag or oranges in a bag or a basket? I don't really care. Because in countries like Grenada, you cannot oppress your opponent for too long. Changes will occur. You understand? And if you have left-wing political ideas with your selfishness, no country will give you money like Venezuela. You won't see the Russians sending down SS missiles to Grenada to guard you with your wishy-washy dream of leftism. Some of you guys who have that mentality older than me, or my age, young people follow blindly. They don't know what the hell going on. Even MPs in this present government don't even know what they're doing by listening to all these left-wing political advisors. They can't see the danger ahead. Venezuela had the largest oil deposit in the world. So it is expected that if the American invade Venezuela, there will be resistance from opponents who are anti-America and they have firepower. But you little Grenada, you're oppressing your own local citizen for ideology because you bring her to leftists in your political party, and they calling shots. That's nonsense, man. So anyway, going back to the topic, the gunboat in the Caribbean now. As I said, I don't want war. I don't want no invasion of Venezuela per se. I don't want no war, because where we live in, war is not a good thing. But what I'm looking at, if there is no war, the Americans are reluctant to invade. You might have people in Grenada say, oh, support invasion. I am not into that. I have my own views. When I deal in my politics, I deal in my politics internally in Grenada. I believe Grenada should remain a two-party democracy, and I don't support extremist politics, neither to the left or to the right. I'm anti-PRG, the remnants of the PRG. I'm anti to them. And whether they have clout in this present government, and they could spite me if they have to, I don't really care. Because they won't be permanent, they're only temporary. Because Grenada doesn't have the kind of interest for them big anti-imperialist forces want. They will put more interest in Venezuela. It's a big country. Because as I said, I've visited Venezuela before. And I always say, I used to tell myself, if Grenada sing, give me a Venezuelan passport. I like that country. I'll know. So, what I'm seeing now, I believe is going to happen. If there is no war, and the Maduro government was not attacked, the American will still run in the gunboat up and down there from the Caribbean. They will still do it. I don't believe there is going to be war. But the gunboat will be running up and down. So, the Caribbean waters go come like the ball in wall. You know? And who is going to suffer in that? The Caribbean islands. But Trinidad give they give a political virginity to the US. Guyana have no other choice, because the Venezuelan don't want to draw the border, which I feel the Venezuelan could come to a solution and say, Guyana, let us draw that border. That is why I tell you, extremism in the politics, I don't support that too. So, under Donald Trump regime, without an invasion of Venezuela, the gunboat will still be down. And a lot of countries will be marked, Caribbean countries. You understand? So, Mr. Trump ruling the most powerful country in the world, according to what they say, the most powerful, the richest country. It could punish you militarily, economically. Internally in Grenada, government will punish opposition for what you say. So, Trump punishment is globally, everybody know. But internally in Grenada, you might say something and people punish you for it too. What it is. You understand? So, the region is not looking good. And now with trade, Mr. Trump was saying he go close the Panama Canal or something like that. I don't think he go close the canal. That is the thing. That is why maybe there's no invasion of Venezuela, or maybe I don't think it will be invasion, because if Venezuela is invaded, China might invade Taiwan, and to be a global power, you got to cross the ocean from the Atlantic to the Pacific to the Indian Ocean, where again? All the oceans, man, where trading take place. So, the region, man, things are looking too bright. And you have people, black people, something wrong with us. A lot of black people. We still believe using the Bible to pray into God going to solve that. No biblical prayer cannot solve that. Because if the biblical prayers could have solved wars, we in the Caribbean will be the richest people in the world because we pray a lot. And we catching we nenen, we catching we hell. You understand? So, I don't know what to say. So, the Caribbean region is infested with gunboat diplomacy, political idealists, and in Grenada, those idealists in Grenada are opportunists. Those in Venezuela might be protecting something, some resources. In Grenada is just a illusion, Because, for example, it's not even like when people join a religion and they don't know the founder. Because most Rastafarians, if you ask them who founded the Rastafari movement, they don't know. Those who are Pentecostals, born again, if you ask them who founded the Pentecostal church, they don't know. Some Anglican might know, some Catholic don't know who founded the religion. Right? So it's the same thing with the Grenadian political idealists. If you ask a lot of people will tell you they are Pan-Africanists. Who formed the Pan-Africanist movement, they don't know. A lot of Rasta believe is Marcus Garvey. But he's not. He's a Trinidadian man. You understand? Henry Sylvester Williams. But a man might take out a big spliff light and think he's Marcus Garvey. Because we're not informed. So what we have in Grenada is some educated people romancing about socialism. So look at me when I do my life and they want to beat up on me, or they might try to victimize me. I don't bother because I know it's temporary. The democratic process in Grenada will remain. Every 5 years we're going to have elections, man. Because the gunboat are coming to Grenada to lock us again from 1979 to 1983. So, the democratic process is functioning, even though it's been it has been infected. Now I was seeing on the news where they say the government prorogued parliament and some of the bills they were dealing with will become null and void. Now, people like me would you open my mouth and say certain things I don't like? Maybe if we didn't talk, maybe government do not approve parliament and there's bills will go through. You understand? So, is it that most government just must prorogue parliament? Or they don't want the bill again? They afraid to withdraw the bill? I don't know. Based on what I read. Right? So, you might victimize me from not going on a stage to perform in Grenada Day. But I'm still effective. And I will always be effective. And I go end up on a stage again one day. Because nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary instead of Grenada. Constitution hasn't changed. Can't change to the back though. Anyway, this is me, Hudson Georgia. Yes. Till I come again.